Lena, meanwhile, moved through her day as if nothing had changed. She returned to the community center, carrying a stack of books for the reading circle, her eyes bright despite the exhaustion of the previous day. Children spilled into the room, their laughter echoing against the walls she had helped brighten with paint and murals. Volunteers, young and old, arrived with snacks, art supplies, and boundless energy, their presence a testament to the subtle inspiration Lena had sparked in the neighborhood. She greeted each one with warmth, her focus unshaken by the outside world. Nathan decided he could no longer remain a distant observer. He left his penthouse and moved through the streets of Chicago incognito, dressed simply in jeans and a hoodie, his face shielded by the early morning light and the casual anonymity of a pedestrian. He visited the community center quietly, watching as Lena coordinated volunteers, handing out books and supplies, and offering gentle guidance to the children. Every interaction was deliberate yet unstudied, full of attention and empathy, and Nathan felt a pull he had not experienced before, a mixture of admiration, awe, and something deeper, something personal that unsettled him in ways he could not define. Serena Vale, restless after the gala, had already mobilized her social media team. She posted a series of stories highlighting her extravagant spending spree, carefully curated to maintain her image as both glamorous and generous. Each post was a performance, calculated, rehearsed, and amplified by her carefully maintained network of followers. Nathan watched from a distance, noting the contrast between her spectacle and Lena's quiet, tangible impact. Serena sought validation from thousands of strangers, Lena earned respect from those whose lives she had touched directly. Isabella Frost, ever opportunistic, continued to document the aftermath, live streaming from locations she assumed Nathan would visit, trying to capture a narrative in which she remained central. Her streams were chaotic, energetic, and relentless, but Nathan began to notice the subtle cracks, the moments where her performance faltered, where ambition and self-interest shone through too clearly. Unlike Serena, Isabella's chaos lacked grace. It demanded attention but gave little in return. Claudia Chin moved through her day like a general on a campaign. She convened meetings with Nathan's financial advisors, dissecting data, analyzing patterns, and seeking leverage. Every calculation, every prediction, every recommendation carried the unmistakable edge of control. She was building influence, carefully and methodically, but Nathan realized that despite her intelligence, she lacked the element Lena had, the human touch, the ability to create impact that transcended money and strategy. By mid-morning, Nathan found himself standing at the corner of the community center, observing Lena interact with the children and volunteers. A young boy, no more than 7, ran toward her clutching a painted star, his eyes wide with excitement. Lena crouched, her voice gentle and encouraging, and helped him position it on the mural. Nathan felt a tightening in his chest. This was not just charity. This was transformation, in its most immediate, undeniable form. Every smile, every laugh, every small accomplishment radiated outward, touching more people than 1,000 headlines ever could. As he watched, Lena's phone buzzed. A local journalist had attempted to contact her for a follow-up on the block party, seeking a quote for the story that had begun to trend. She ignored it, focusing instead on the children who crowded around her, their small hands sticky with paint and their laughter filling the room. Nathan realized, with both admiration and concern, that Lena had not sought attention, and yet attention had found her regardless. Meanwhile, Serena arranged a chance meeting at a downtown cafe, hoping to intersect with Nathan. Her presence was commanding, her movements deliberate, her smile polished and intentional. She leaned forward, voice dripping with charm, and said, "Nathan, don't you think Lena's actions are compelling? She's making waves. It's impressive, isn't it? But I wonder if she fully understands the implications of her choices. Influence is complicated." Nathan studied her, noting the subtle undertone, a mix of critique, intrigue, and desire for validation. Serena thrived in spectacle, she sought to manipulate, to control, to ensure she remained at the center. Claudia, quietly relentless, scheduled another meeting with Nathan's team. Her questions were precise, her tone professional but probing. She wanted insight, leverage, and influence, all under the guise of strategic inquiry. Every conversation with her revealed ambition tempered by intellect, a drive for control that was methodical and disciplined. Nathan observed the contrast between her calculated approach and Lena's intuitive, human-centered actions. Isabella, unrestrained and chaotic, continued her live streaming, weaving herself into every narrative she could find. Her energy was relentless, captivating, and at times exhausting. Nathan noted her influence, recognizing its reach but also its volatility. She sought visibility, impact, and validation in a manner that was immediate and unsustainable. Unlike Lena, Isabella's actions were designed to be observed, consumed, and commented on, not to effect lasting change. By afternoon, Nathan realized the situation had grown beyond his control or prediction. Each woman's actions, Serena's extravagance, Claudia's calculation, Isabella's spectacle, and Lena's quiet generosity, had created a complex web of influence, perception, and consequence. The ripple effect of Lena's choices was expanding, touching lives in ways both tangible and immeasurable. Nathan understood that this was no longer an experiment he could simply observe. It had become a living system, dynamic and unpredictable, shaped as much by human perception as by the actions themselves. That evening, Nathan returned to the penthouse to review the day's developments. The reports, images, and social media posts filled the screen, overwhelming in their quantity and complexity. He noted the contrast starkly. Serena's actions had generated attention but little meaningful impact. Isabella's had amplified her presence but remained largely superficial. Claudia's had created influence but lacked warmth or resonance. Lena's, however, had transformed communities, uplifted individuals, and inspired genuine human connection. It was a truth Nathan could see in the data, but more importantly, he could feel it in the quiet spaces between headlines, in the laughter of children, and in the restored energy of neighborhoods she had touched. As he sat in silence, the realization struck him fully: the experiment had succeeded, but not in the way he had anticipated. He had sought to observe human nature, to measure ambition and greed against compassion and selflessness. What he had discovered was that true influence, true impact, was not found in money, fame, or strategy. It was found in action, grounded in empathy and humanity. Lena, in her quiet, unassuming way, had demonstrated this most clearly. The day ended with Nathan standing on the balcony, overlooking the city lights shimmering like stars caught in glass. He felt the weight of responsibility, the pull of admiration, and the stirrings of something unspoken, something deeper than curiosity or respect. Lena had challenged everything he thought he knew about power, influence, and generosity. And he understood, with a clarity that unsettled him, that the next steps, the next choices, would determine more than reputations or wealth. They would determine the shape of the impact he and Lena could create together. The following morning, Chicago woke under a heavy gray sky, the streets slick with overnight rain. Nathan Cross moved through the city with a purpose, no longer content to observe from a distance. He navigated the familiar streets, tracing the path Lena had taken over the past 3 days. Community centers, corner stores, clinics, and apartment complexes all bore traces of her influence: fresh paint on doors, neatly stacked groceries, small reading nooks created with painstaking care. It was a network of care, stitched into the fabric of neighborhoods too often overlooked. Nathan's chest tightened with a mixture of awe and unease. She had accomplished in days what many philanthropists could not in decades. Inside the community center, Lena prepared for another session with the children. She arranged books, sorted art supplies, and checked the schedule for volunteers arriving later in the afternoon. Mateo, now awake and curious, peeked from his blanket fort, his small face glowing with excitement. Lena smiled at him, brushing a stray lock of hair from his forehead. The simplicity of the moment, the quiet hum of activity, the gentle laughter, the way the children ran freely, reminded Nathan of the stark contrast between Lena's world and that of the elite social circles he inhabited. Serena Vale, refusing to be left behind in the narrative, orchestrated another public display. A high-end boutique agreed to showcase her purchases from the past days, framing them as charitable contributions to select causes. Cameras flashed, videos streamed live, and social media buzzed with curated admiration. Nathan observed her from a distance, noting the precision with which she manipulated perception. Every post, every gesture, every interaction was calculated to draw attention, elevate status, and consolidate influence. Yet beneath the polished exterior, Nathan detected a vulnerability, an insatiable need for acknowledgement, a fear of being invisible without spectacle. Isabella Frost, relentless and untamed, continued her live broadcasts, capturing snippets of the city, interviews with attendees, and candid reactions. Her energy was magnetic, chaotic, and contagious, yet Nathan sensed the fragility beneath her performance. She thrived on attention, but it was fleeting, ephemeral, and ultimately unsustainable. Her influence was immediate but lacked depth, visibility but not substance. Claudia Chin, ever meticulous, analyzed every movement, every transaction, every public post. She convened small groups of associates, running calculations and devising scenarios for leveraging the experiment's outcomes to her advantage. Nathan watched her, recognizing brilliance, strategy, and ambition, but also the cold precision of intellect untempered by empathy. Claudia had power, skill, and foresight, but she lacked the human element Lena wielded so effortlessly. By mid-morning, Nathan arrived at the community center. He lingered at the edges, careful not to disrupt the flow of activity. Volunteers unpacked supplies while Lena guided children through creative projects, helping them paste paper stars on the walls, sketch animals, and craft stories. The energy was contagious, a living testament to her influence. Nathan felt the weight of his observation, the realization that the most profound impact rarely demanded visibility or acclaim. Lena's choices rippled outward, altering the lives of those she touched in ways that could not be measured by headlines or social media metrics. A group of volunteers approached Lena with news of an upcoming challenge. A local clinic required immediate supplies, a batch of educational materials had gone missing, and a nearby playground needed urgent repairs. Lena's response was calm, measured, and decisive. She coordinated volunteers, allocated resources from the recent purchases, and scheduled tasks for the upcoming weekend. Every action was deliberate, precise, and infused with a quiet determination. Nathan watched, realizing that this orchestration, unassuming, human-centered, and impactful, was the kind of leadership that left indelible marks. Meanwhile, the media frenzy surrounding Lena continued. Serena arranged interviews where she subtly contrasted her own glamorous actions against Lena's understated efforts, questioning motives and framing generosity as strategy. Isabella captured snippets of community events, live-streaming moments meant to highlight her engagement while maintaining her centrality in the narrative. Claudia, strategically silent in public, continued to dissect every report, seeking angles for influence and advantage. Nathan noticed the subtle tension building, the invisible currents of competition and perception colliding with Lena's quiet integrity. By afternoon, Nathan decided it was time to intervene more directly. He approached Lena as she organized a reading circle. Children gathered around, eyes wide, their small hands clutching books and paper crafts. Nathan stepped into the room quietly, allowing the laughter and energy to continue uninterrupted. Lena looked up, slightly startled, but quickly offered a warm, cautious smile. Nathan felt the weight of the moment, the intersection of influence, perception, and genuine action. "I've seen what you've done," Nathan said softly, his voice carrying neither accusation nor praise, just acknowledgement. Lena tilted her head slightly, studying him. "And?" she asked, her tone calm but guarded. Nathan paused, choosing words carefully. "And it's extraordinary. The children, the volunteers, the community, you've changed more in 3 days than most do in a lifetime. Yet the world doubts it. Headlines twist your generosity into ambition, kindness into manipulation." Lena's gaze hardened slightly, her jaw tightening. "And what do you want from me, Nathan?" she asked. Nathan shook his head, taking a breath. "Nothing. I only wanted you to know that I see the truth." The tension in the room was palpable, yet unspoken. Children continued their activities, oblivious to the undercurrents of influence, status, and narrative swirling around them. Nathan realized that Lena's strength was precisely in this unassuming authenticity. She did not seek validation, did not manipulate perception, and did not chase attention. She acted with purpose, guided by empathy, humanity, and a vision larger than herself. Later, Nathan returned to his office to analyze the unfolding narrative. Social media posts, news articles, and internal reports filled the screen. He noted the patterns emerging. Serena's public displays attracted immediate attention but lacked enduring impact. Isabella's energy captivated audiences momentarily but left little behind. Claudia's strategy created leverage but without resonance or human connection. Lena's actions, however, were generating long-term influence, cultivating trust, and inspiring collaboration. Nathan understood the deeper lesson. The experiment had revealed not just human behavior under unlimited resources, but the profound difference between visibility and impact, attention and authenticity. As evening approached, the community center prepared for a volunteer appreciation event. Lena coordinated decorations, prepared refreshments, and ensured each child and volunteer felt recognized. Nathan arrived quietly, watching as she moved through the room, her presence commanding respect without demanding it. Volunteers smiled, children laughed, and Nathan felt a sense of quiet fulfillment, witnessing the ripples of Lena's choices manifest in real time. Across the city, Serena, Isabella, and Claudia monitored these developments. Serena attempted to outshine Lena through another curated display, Isabella broadcasted live yet again, and Claudia analyzed and strategized. Nathan realized that the experiment had moved beyond observation. Each woman's choices, public, private, strategic, spontaneous, were colliding in unpredictable ways. The influence, perception, and impact of their actions had become a living system, dynamic and fluid, revealing the true nature of human behavior under scrutiny. By nightfall, Nathan returned to the penthouse. He reflected on the events of the day, reviewing the data, images, and narratives. Lena's influence had extended far beyond the confines of the experiment. She had inspired volunteers, uplifted children, strengthened community ties, and quietly challenged assumptions about power, wealth, and generosity. Nathan understood now that the value of the black card was never monetary. It was a tool that revealed character, choices, and impact. Lena had demonstrated that influence, integrity, and humanity could surpass wealth, status, and spectacle. Nathan sat in silence, contemplating the implications. The experiment had succeeded not in exposing greed or vanity, but in revealing authenticity, empathy, and action as the true markers of influence. Lena had acted without expectation, without manipulation, and without the desire for recognition. Her quiet, deliberate choices had created a ripple effect far greater than any of the other participants, and Nathan realized that his own understanding of power, impact, and human nature had been irrevocably transformed. The day ended with a quiet resolve. Nathan knew that the next steps would require care, thought, and humility. He had witnessed the extraordinary in Lena, and he understood that influence was not about spectacle, strategy, or status. It was about creating change that endured, touched lives, and inspired others to act. Lena's quiet defiance, her unassuming generosity, and her unshakable integrity had rewritten the rules Nathan had once believed governed human behavior. Night settled over the city like a velvet curtain, dimming the streets while leaving the glimmering skyline untouched. Nathan Cross remained at the edge of the community center, watching the volunteers and children wind down after a long day. Lena moved among them with quiet authority, gathering scraps of paper, tidying up art supplies, and ensuring every child had a snack to take home. There was no fanfare, no cameras, no expectation of applause, just action. Nathan noticed how the room seemed to respond to her presence. Energy and warmth radiated outward, infusing even the smallest gestures with meaning. Earlier in the day, Nathan had witnessed a small miracle. A dispute between two children over a set of crayons had been resolved not through reprimand, but through guidance. Lena had knelt between them, her voice calm and steady, her hands gesturing in gentle explanation. She had invited them to collaborate, to take turns, and to recognize each other's contributions. The result was a small moment of harmony, but Nathan understood the significance. This was not just about crayons or children, this was about teaching empathy, patience, and mutual respect. It was the kind of influence no amount of money could purchase, the kind that left a lasting imprint. Meanwhile, the city outside pulsed with its usual chaos. Serena Vale arranged a media event to highlight her latest charitable contribution, inviting photographers, influencers, and reporters to document her generosity. She wore a sparkling gown, smiled for the cameras, and offered rehearsed remarks about the importance of giving back. Nathan watched a live stream, noting how carefully curated every frame was, how every interaction was calculated for maximum exposure. And yet, despite the spectacle, he felt a hollow emptiness in the narrative: attention, yes, but no substance. Serena was performing generosity, not practicing it. Isabella Frost continued her relentless documentation, moving from one corner of the city to another, capturing snippets of activity, reactions, and public interactions. Her energy was intoxicating, her charisma undeniable, yet Nathan began to notice the cracks. Moments of frustration, exhaustion, and fleeting vulnerability betrayed the relentless effort to maintain visibility. Influence built on chaos and spectacle, Nathan realized, was inherently unstable. It demanded constant reinforcement and left little room for genuine connection. Claudia Chin, the strategist, spent her evening analyzing the data Nathan had compiled. She mapped patterns, predicted outcomes, and calculated probabilities for leveraging public perception, social influence, and resources to her advantage. Her intellect was sharp, precise, and formidable. Yet, Nathan could not ignore the subtle gap. Claudia's brilliance lacked the human element Lena embodied so naturally. Her influence was transactional, not transformative. It moved systems, not hearts. Back at the community center, Lena prepared for a storytelling session with the children. She arranged a small circle of chairs, encouraged everyone to find a spot, and pulled a stack of books from the shelf. Nathan lingered at the doorway, careful not to intrude, observing how her presence commanded attention not through dominance, but through genuine engagement. Children settled, eyes wide and attentive, as Lena read aloud. She animated each character with expression and empathy, pausing to ask questions, invite participation, and celebrate creativity. Nathan felt a tightening in his chest. He had never witnessed influence so subtle yet so powerful, so human yet so transformative. The day's activities culminated in a quiet moment outside the center. Lena had organized a small garden project, inviting children and volunteers to plant flowers along the walkway. The earth was damp, the air crisp, and the laughter of children filled the space. Nathan watched as Lena knelt beside a young girl, guiding her hands into the soil, explaining how roots grew and flowers bloomed. It was an unassuming act, yet Nathan realized it was emblematic of everything Lena represented: nurturing growth, creating foundations, fostering resilience. Meanwhile, news of Lena's continued efforts had begun to circulate more widely, attracting both admiration and scrutiny. Social media threads buzzed with commentary, some praising her initiative, others questioning her motives, and a few outright dismissing her work as self-promotion. Nathan felt frustration rise within him. How could such pure action be met with suspicion, skepticism, and outright malice? Yet he also understood the inevitability. The world had a habit of doubting what it could not control, of twisting generosity into ambition, of reducing complexity into headlines. Serena, sensing an opportunity, orchestrated another public display. She visited the same neighborhoods, accompanied by photographers and videographers, capturing interactions with local children and families. Her charm, her smile, her carefully framed gestures were broadcast across multiple channels. Nathan watched, noting the contrast. Serena sought visibility, Lena sought impact. One was transient, the other enduring. The lesson was unavoidable: authenticity, grounded in action, outweighed spectacle every time. Isabella, undeterred, continued to document the unfolding narrative. She captured candid moments, attempted interviews, and orchestrated live streams meant to highlight her involvement. Yet the underlying desperation to remain central in the narrative became increasingly apparent. Nathan noted the difference. Isabella's energy attracted attention but did not create meaningful change. Lena's presence fostered transformation without seeking recognition. The contrast was stark, undeniable, and profoundly instructive. Claudia, in the meantime, calculated potential leverage points, identifying ways to redirect public perception, influence stakeholders, and assert control. Her intelligence was formidable, her ambition relentless, yet Nathan recognized the absence of a vital ingredient, empathy. Without the human element, influence remained incomplete, effectiveness limited. Lena had demonstrated that authentic leadership required not just strategy, but compassion, vision, and a willingness to invest in others without expectation of reward. By nightfall, the community center had quieted. Children were picked up by parents, volunteers departed, and Lena remained behind to tidy up, check inventory, and plan for the following day. Nathan approached, noting her fatigue yet the unwavering focus in her eyes. "You've done an incredible job," he said softly. Lena glanced up, offering a modest smile. "It's not about me," she replied simply. Nathan nodded, understanding immediately, her work was never about recognition, fame, or status. It was about creating lasting impact, touching lives, and inspiring others to act. Nathan reflected on the broader implications of the experiment. The black card, once a symbol of limitless power, had revealed not just human desire, but the spectrum of human choice. Serena had sought attention, Isabella had chased visibility, Claudia had pursued influence, but Lena had acted with authenticity, empathy, and courage. Her choices had tangible consequences, positive and enduring, affecting real lives in measurable ways. The contrast could not have been more pronounced, nor the lesson clearer. In the quiet of the evening, Nathan and Lena spoke for the first time without barriers, without pretense. They discussed logistics, community needs, and future initiatives. Nathan was struck by the clarity and simplicity of her vision: empower, nurture, inspire, and create opportunity. Each decision she made was deliberate, measured, and guided by values he realized he had long neglected. He felt both admiration and a quiet sense of accountability. He had been a witness to something extraordinary, and now he bore the responsibility of ensuring it endured. The day concluded with Nathan watching Lena lock up the community center, her movements deliberate, her posture relaxed yet purposeful. He felt the weight of understanding settle over him. Influence was not measured by wealth, status, or spectacle. It was measured by action, by empathy, and by the lasting change one created in the lives of others. Lena's choices had illuminated a truth Nathan had long ignored: generosity, courage, and integrity outshone power, fame, and strategy every time. The city never truly slept, though in the early hours, it whispered instead of roared. Nathan cross-navigated the streets in near silence, the hum of his vehicle blending with the faint echoes of distant sirens. Lena's influence was spreading, a quiet pulse felt through neighborhoods that had long been ignored, overlooked, and underserved. Nathan reflected on the past days, the children's laughter, the volunteers' energy, the subtle yet profound changes she had initiated. Each moment carried weight, but tonight, the quiet made the significance clearer. This was more than charity, this was transformation, and transformation always attracted attention, scrutiny, and ultimately, resistance. In an upscale penthouse overlooking the river, Serena Vale observed the digital feeds with meticulous care. Her perfectly arched eyebrows knitted together as she scrolled through news articles, social media reactions, and live streams. Lena's growing influence had sparked more than admiration, it had threatened Serena's carefully curated image of power and control. Each headline praising Lena's selfless acts felt like a challenge, an implicit accusation that Serena's spectacle and curated generosity were superficial, hollow, and transient. She set her phone down and began strategizing, calculating how best to reclaim attention and assert dominance. The room's chandeliers cast fractured light across her sharply tailored gown, reflecting the tension between appearance and reality. Meanwhile, Isabella Frost maneuvered through the city like a streak of neon energy. Every step, every broadcast, every live snippet was designed to captivate, to draw followers, to ensure she remained central in the unfolding narrative. Yet beneath the confident exterior, doubt lingered. Nathan had begun noticing subtle cracks, her voice occasionally faltered when questions pressed too closely, and her enthusiasm sometimes betrayed exhaustion. Energy built on constant visibility demanded renewal, and she was human, not infinite. Claudia Chen, observing from a quiet corner of a downtown office, analyzed the flow of attention, calculating potential leverage points, influence vectors, and strategic opportunities. Every digital interaction, every social commentary, every charitable headline was data, tools to manipulate perception and consolidate power. Yet Nathan, reviewing her activity, realized the deficiency. Intelligence alone, untempered by empathy or authenticity, produced influence but not enduring change. The world could be swayed by appearance, but it could not be transformed by it. Lena, in contrast, moved through the neighborhoods with intention, her actions quiet but deliberate. She visited families, checked in on local businesses, and facilitated connections between volunteers and residents. Each act was purposeful, unmediated, and guided by the principle that impact mattered more than visibility. Nathan trailed at a distance, observing the subtle yet profound ways her presence inspired cooperation, resilience, and creativity. By mid-morning, Lena had convened a small planning session for the upcoming weekend. Volunteers gathered in the community center's modest meeting room, papers spread across tables, calendars marked with tasks, and goals articulated with clarity. Lena's leadership was unassuming yet authoritative. She listened attentively, provided guidance, and empowered others to contribute meaningfully. Nathan noted how her approach contrasted sharply with Serena's performative displays, Isabella's energetic yet chaotic engagement, and Claudia's strategic precision. Lena's influence was quiet, authentic, and deeply effective. Nathan accompanied Lena on a site visit to a local playground in disrepair. Broken swings, rusted slides, and cracked concrete marked the space. Children gathered around, their eyes wide with curiosity and anticipation. Lena assessed the area, spoke with volunteers, and delegated tasks with care. She coordinated the delivery of materials purchased through the experiment, ensuring that every item, paint, wood, tools, was accounted for and utilized efficiently. Nathan watched as children began helping, guided by Lena's patient instruction. The transformation of the space was gradual but tangible, a physical manifestation of her influence. Serena and Isabella attempted to capture similar moments, but their approaches lacked substance. Serena's carefully staged photographs and Isabella's frantic live streams generated immediate attention but failed to create lasting engagement. Claudia, meanwhile, dissected the process from afar, noting opportunities to manipulate perception and assert dominance through media channels. Nathan observed the contrast and felt a growing conviction: Lena's influence, though quieter, was far more profound, enduring, and authentic. By afternoon, the community center buzzed with activity. Lena facilitated workshops on literacy, creativity, and life skills. Children and volunteers moved through stations, each designed to encourage collaboration, problem-solving, and self-expression. Nathan observed the interactions, noting how Lena's guidance cultivated confidence, empathy, and initiative. Her impact extended beyond immediate results. She was fostering a culture of care, responsibility, and mutual support. Meanwhile, media coverage intensified. Serena's orchestrated events, Isabella's broadcasts, and Claudia's analytical commentary attempted to dominate the narrative. Yet, despite their efforts, attention began to shift toward Lena. Social media users, volunteers, and local residents amplified her actions organically. Nathan noted the subtle power of authenticity. It did not demand attention, yet it attracted it, sustained it, and inspired engagement. As evening approached, Nathan reflected on the unfolding dynamics. Lena's quiet leadership, authenticity, and empathy contrasted sharply with the performative, strategic, and attention-driven actions of the other participants. He realized that influence was not merely the ability to command attention, it was the capacity to generate meaningful, enduring change. Lena exemplified this principle, demonstrating that action rooted in integrity, compassion, and vision could surpass wealth, strategy, or spectacle. The day concluded with a volunteer appreciation dinner. Lena ensured that every participant felt acknowledged, celebrated, and valued. Nathan observed the genuine smiles, laughter, and gratitude. He noted how Lena's presence elevated the room's energy without dominating it. Her leadership inspired, nurtured, and empowered, a stark contrast to the performative actions of the other women. By nightfall, Nathan returned to his office, reviewing the day's documentation. Media posts, digital interactions, and volunteer reports painted a clear picture. Lena's influence extended far beyond immediate visibility. It was sustainable, transformative, and deeply human. Serena, Isabella, and Claudia continued their efforts, yet Nathan recognized that their impact, though visible, lacked permanence. Lena's quiet authenticity had created a network of care, resilience, and hope that could not be replicated by attention alone. Nathan's thoughts lingered on the broader implications. The black card, initially a symbol of limitless power, had revealed a spectrum of human behavior. Serena sought attention, Isabella pursued visibility, Claudia chased influence, but Lena had acted with integrity, empathy, and courage. Her choices had tangible consequences, affecting real lives in meaningful ways. Nathan understood that authentic leadership and influence were defined not by visibility, strategy, or spectacle, but by the ability to create enduring change, inspire others, and act with integrity. Night settled fully, the city lights shimmering against the dark sky. Nathan contemplated the next steps. The experiment had revealed more than expected. Human behavior under unlimited resources was complex, multifaceted, and revealing. Lena's quiet, deliberate, and empathetic actions had emerged as the clearest demonstration of the power of authenticity. Nathan understood that influence was not merely about command, it was about connection, transformation, and the courage to act with integrity, even in the face of skepticism, scrutiny, and resistance. Morning broke over the city in a wash of gray light, the kind that softened edges and revealed the texture of things long ignored. Nathan arrived at the community center early, expecting Lena to be there already. She was, as usual, moving with quiet efficiency, sweeping the floor, opening windows, and greeting the few volunteers who had arrived before him. There was no fanfare in her movements, no expectation of praise, only purpose. Nathan found himself drawn to the simplicity and clarity of her actions, realizing that the most profound leadership required neither grandeur nor spectacle.
The day's agenda was ambitious. Lena had planned multiple workshops for children and volunteers, including art, literacy, and conflict resolution. Nathan watched her coordinate each activity with patience and precision, her instructions clear but gentle, her encouragement steady and sincere. When one of the younger children hesitated, unsure how to proceed, Lena knelt beside them, guiding hands over paper and paintbrushes, offering reassurance with words that carried both authority and warmth. Nathan felt the weight of understanding settle over him. Leadership was not about command, control, or visibility. It was about fostering growth, creating trust, and inspiring action. Lena embodied all three. Meanwhile, the city beyond the center pulsed with anticipation and anxiety. Serena Vale's media team had organized a high-profile charity event in a nearby district, complete with photographers, influencers, and live streams. Serena moved through the event like a conductor, orchestrating smiles, staged interactions, and carefully timed moments to maximize visibility. Every gesture, every word, every photo was meticulously calculated. Nathan followed the coverage remotely, noting the contrast. The spectacle drew attention, yes, but it lacked depth. The smiles were polished, the engagement scripted, the impact fleeting. He wondered if the people in the communities Serena sought to influence would feel any lasting benefit beyond the images and headlines. Isabella Frost, undeterred, roamed the streets with her camera crew, capturing every interaction, posting live updates, and commenting on social media to maintain relevance. Her energy was relentless, her focus entirely on visibility. Nathan observed how the intensity of her efforts contrasted with Lena's subtle approach. One sought attention, the other cultivated impact. It was a distinction that could not be ignored, and one that would define the outcome of the unfolding experiment. Claudia Chun, seated in her office overlooking the city's skyline, analyzed data streams with meticulous precision. She tracked engagement metrics, social influence, and public perception with a level of detail that bordered on obsession. Her intelligence and ambition were formidable, yet Nathan recognized the fundamental limitation. Strategy alone could not replicate empathy, authenticity, or meaningful impact. Claudia's actions could manipulate perception, but they could not transform reality. Back at the center, Lena guided the children through a group activity designed to encourage collaboration and problem-solving. Pairs of children were tasked with building structures from recycled materials. Nathan watched as Lena moved among them, offering suggestions without dominating, encouraging without interfering. The results were imperfect but inventive. Towers that leaned precariously, bridges that wobbled, and sculptures that defied expectation. Lena praised creativity, emphasizing the value of effort, collaboration, and imagination. Nathan realized that her leadership was not about controlling outcomes, but about nurturing potential.
The afternoon brought a new challenge. A local family had experienced a fire in their home, losing many possessions and facing uncertainty. Lena mobilized volunteers to gather supplies, coordinate temporary accommodations, and provide emotional support. Nathan observed how her calm decisiveness created order out of chaos. While others might have hesitated or deferred responsibility, Lena acted immediately, ensuring that the family's immediate needs were met and that longer-term support systems were put in place. Her influence was not theoretical, it was tangible, measurable, and immediate. As the day wore on, Nathan received updates from outside the community center. Social media posts praising Lena's efforts had begun to gain traction, drawing both admiration and criticism. Some commenters expressed skepticism, questioning the authenticity of her work and implying ulterior motives. Nathan felt a familiar frustration. The world often judged generosity with suspicion, mistaking selfless action for manipulation or ambition. Yet Lena remained undeterred, focused solely on the people whose lives she was improving. Her resilience in the face of scrutiny impressed Nathan more than any public accolade could. Serena, noticing the growing attention Lena was receiving, intensified her efforts. She arranged a staged coincidental meeting with local children, photographers in tow, to create the appearance of spontaneity and authenticity. Nathan observed the calculated effort, noting how each movement was designed to capture attention rather than create impact. While the event generated likes, shares, and media mentions, Nathan recognized that it lacked the enduring substance of Lena's actions. The children left with smiles, yes, but the community itself remained unchanged. Lena, in contrast, had created lasting infrastructure, trust, and engagement. Isabella, following the same streets with her camera crew, attempted to highlight Lena's activities in a more sensationalized manner. Her commentary emphasized drama, urgency, and spectacle, framing Lena's work as a series of challenges to be overcome for entertainment value. Nathan noted the dissonance. Isabella's coverage drew viewers but distorted the reality of Lena's influence. Authenticity, Nathan reflected, could not be manufactured or performed. It had to be earned through consistent action, guided by integrity and empathy. Claudia Chen, analyzing engagement metrics late into the evening, recognized the shift in public attention. While she had anticipated Serena and Isabella dominating the narrative, Lena's authenticity had begun to command real influence. Claudia considered strategic interventions, media manipulations, calculated statements, and narrative framing, but Nathan understood that such tactics could never replicate the fundamental impact Lena had achieved. Influence rooted in action, empathy, and integrity was impervious to superficial manipulation. As night fell, Nathan joined Lena in preparing a small community gathering. Volunteers arranged chairs, tables, and refreshments. Children hung handmade decorations, excited for the event. Lena moved among them, providing guidance, encouragement, and support, yet always allowing the children and volunteers to take initiative. Nathan observed the subtle yet profound effect. Individuals who felt valued, empowered, and respected responded with energy, creativity, and engagement. Influence, Nathan realized, was not a matter of command but of connection, and Lena had mastered that connection. The gathering began with a brief welcome speech from Lena, delivered not for attention or recognition, but to express gratitude and inspire participation. Children performed small skits, volunteers shared stories, and neighbors exchanged ideas. Nathan noticed the sense of community that had taken root, a network of support, collaboration, and shared purpose that extended beyond the event itself. This was the enduring power of Lena's influence, the creation of systems, relationships, and opportunities that could sustain themselves independently of her presence. Nathan reflected on the lessons of the day. Serena had sought visibility, Isabella had pursued attention, and Claudia had attempted to manipulate perception. Lena had acted with authenticity, empathy, and integrity. The contrast was undeniable. The black card, once a symbol of limitless power, had revealed the spectrum of human behavior. Influence could be wielded through spectacle, strategy, or attention, but only authenticity created lasting impact. Lena's actions had proven that true power lay not in wealth, visibility, or control, but in the courage to act with integrity, to prioritize others, and to foster genuine, sustainable change. By the time the last volunteer departed and the children were collected, Lena remained behind, reviewing plans for the next day. Nathan approached, observing her calm focus, her unwavering commitment, and her quiet determination. He realized that her influence extended far beyond immediate outcomes. It had become a living, evolving force within the community, shaping behavior, attitudes, and opportunities. Lena's impact, Nathan understood, was the truest measure of leadership, authenticity, and human potential. The following morning, Brooklyn was alive with motion. Delivery trucks rumbled along the cracked streets, shopkeepers swept their stoops, and children hurried to school with backpacks slung carelessly over their shoulders. Nathan arrived early at the community center, the sky gray but promising light. He observed Lena unlocking the doors and setting up the morning routine. Even before the first volunteers arrived, she had coordinated the placement of supplies, reviewed schedules, and outlined goals for the day. Each movement was deliberate, grounded, and purposeful. Volunteers began trickling in, a mix of familiar faces and newcomers drawn by reports of Lena's recent efforts. Nathan noted how she welcomed each person with attention and authenticity, introducing herself without pretense and asking questions that mattered. She listened actively, absorbed information, and delegated responsibilities thoughtfully. Her influence was quiet but unmistakable, rooted in respect and understanding rather than spectacle or hierarchy. The first workshop of the day focused on literacy. Children sat at long tables, pencils scratching paper, guided by volunteers who followed Lena's structured approach. Nathan observed how she circulated, offering help where needed, praising effort over outcome, and modeling patience. One child struggled to write a simple sentence. Lena knelt beside them, tracing letters gently, speaking encouragement with care. The child's face lit with accomplishment, and Nathan felt the impact resonate beyond the immediate moment. Here was leadership expressed through patience, empathy, and empowerment, an influence no media campaign or social broadcast could replicate. Meanwhile, Serena Vale had mobilized her team for a citywide fundraising gala. The penthouse overlooking the Hudson River was prepared for display, towering floral arrangements, meticulously lit spaces, and waitstaff rehearsed to provide flawless service. Nathan monitored updates remotely, noting Serena's efforts to dominate attention through extravagance. Cameras flashed, influencers posed, and speeches were delivered with precision and polish. Yet, Nathan observed a fundamental limitation: the event was visually perfect but emotionally sterile. It captured attention but lacked authenticity, leaving the participants disconnected from the community they purported to serve. Isabella Frost, on the other hand, focused on capturing every interaction with Lena for social media. Nathan tracked her posts in real time, dramatic captions, urgent framing, and selective angles crafted to emphasize risk, challenge, and spectacle. She attempted to narrate Lena's actions as entertainment, transforming impact into spectacle. Nathan recognized the distortion. Attention had shifted, but the meaning had not. Authenticity could not be staged, and influence rooted in reality could not be entirely reshaped for digital performance. Back at the community center, Lena transitioned the day's activities into a creative arts session. Children worked with paints, recycled materials, and clay to build sculptures and murals. Lena encouraged collaboration, emphasizing that mistakes were part of the process and creativity was an experimentation. Nathan noted how the room vibrated with energy and enthusiasm, how each child's effort was validated, and how volunteers adapted to encourage problem-solving rather than impose rigid outcomes. This approach, Nathan realized, cultivated not only skill but resilience, confidence, and teamwork. Claudia Chen monitored engagement metrics from her office. She noted spikes in local social media attention as Lena's work spread organically. Her strategic calculations considered how these organic gains could be exploited or minimized. Yet Nathan understood the limitation: while perception could be influenced, real-world impact could not be fabricated. Lena's influence was tangible, visible in transformed spaces, empowered children, and organized community networks. Metrics alone could never capture this depth. Around midday, an urgent situation arose. A small neighborhood clinic faced an unexpected influx of patients, overwhelming the staff and threatening to delay critical care. Lena immediately coordinated volunteers to provide logistical support, set up temporary intake areas, and distribute supplies efficiently. Nathan watched as she moved calmly, assessing needs, delegating responsibilities, and ensuring every action was purposeful. The contrast was stark. Where others might have panicked, hesitated, or deferred responsibility, Lena acted decisively, combining empathy with effective problem-solving. Later in the afternoon, Nathan observed Lena engaging with local residents. Conversations flowed naturally, guided by genuine curiosity and concern. She asked questions, listened without interruption, and offered assistance without judgment. Nathan noticed how trust was built through simple consistency: showing up, listening, responding, and following through. Influence, he realized, was not about command, it was about connection, and Lena had mastered it. Meanwhile, Serena's gala broadcast live coverage, emphasizing spectacle and attention-grabbing headlines. Isabella posted curated clips portraying urgency, drama, and challenge, attempting to capture viewer engagement through narrative tension. Claudia analyzed these feeds, calculating potential interventions to maintain dominance over public perception. Yet despite the polished performance, Nathan observed that true engagement, participation rooted in understanding and action, remained absent. Public interest was high, but community impact was low. The day's final activity at the center was a community planning session. Lena guided volunteers and residents in identifying ongoing needs, setting priorities, and allocating resources. She emphasized collaboration, ensuring that everyone had a voice, and that decisions were made collectively rather than imposed. Nathan recognized the subtle but profound effect: individuals empowered to contribute meaningfully became invested, creating sustainable influence beyond Lena's immediate presence. By evening, the center hummed with the quiet satisfaction of accomplishment. Children helped clean up, volunteers reflected on the day's successes, and residents expressed gratitude. Nathan observed Lena taking a moment to review the day's activities, noting achievements and identifying areas for improvement. She exhibited humility, curiosity, and a continuous drive to enhance impact, qualities Nathan understood as the essence of authentic leadership. Nathan reviewed the day's documentation and media coverage, noting an emerging pattern: Lena's influence was spreading organically, sustained by the consistency, integrity, and empathy of her actions. Serena, Isabella, and Claudia had the attention of the media, but Lena had the trust, engagement, and enduring support of the community. Nathan reflected on the broader implications. Influence measured solely by visibility or perception could be fleeting, but influence rooted in action, integrity, and empathy could transform lives and communities in lasting ways. The night was quiet as Nathan left the center, walking through streets that seemed more alive than they had days before. He observed small signs of transformation: new murals, repaired sidewalks, children playing with improvised toys, neighbors talking, and a sense of shared purpose taking hold. Lena's actions had created ripples that extended far beyond the walls of the community center, and Nathan understood that these ripples represented authentic, sustainable change, something that wealth, spectacle, or strategy alone could never achieve. Before leaving, Nathan took a final glance at Lena, who was reviewing plans for the next day, already strategizing for upcoming workshops, outreach programs, and volunteer coordination. He recognized the quiet power in her diligence, a combination of foresight, empathy, and unwavering commitment to meaningful action. Her influence was both visible and invisible, immediate and enduring, personal and communal, a model of leadership rooted in authenticity. As Nathan drove back to his apartment, the city skyline stretched before him, lights glittering like scattered jewels against the dark. He reflected on the day's lessons, understanding more clearly the spectrum of human behavior revealed by the experiment. Lena had demonstrated the enduring power of authenticity, empathy, and integrity. She had shown that influence was not defined by attention, wealth, or spectacle, but by the courage to act with purpose and the commitment to foster real change. Nathan knew that the experiment had reached a critical point. The distinction between those who sought visibility and those who created impact was now undeniable. Night settled fully, and Nathan prepared for another day. The stakes were rising. Lena's influence continued to grow, the other participants' strategies became more desperate, and the city itself became a stage for the unfolding narrative. Nathan understood that the next phase would test not only Lena's resilience but the very nature of human behavior under observation. Authenticity, integrity, and empathy had proven their strength, but would they withstand scrutiny, opposition, and misunderstanding? The answer was yet to be revealed.